Aurelia released Lily's ankle, swimming gracefully to hover between father and daughter. Yes, my love, our daughter has finally come home to us. Jack's expression hardened as he looked at the mermaid. She's not your daughter, Aurelia. Let her go. Let us both go. Aurelia laughed, the sound echoing off the cavern walls. Oh, Jack, still so defiant, even after all these years. Can't you see? This is where you belong, where you both belong. Lily, emboldened by the protective bubble around her and the sight of her long-lost father, swam forward. No, she said firmly. This isn't where we belong. Our home is up there, with my mother, with our people. Aurelia's beautiful face twisted with rage. Your people? Those simple, mundane humans? You are so much more than them, Lily. You are a princess of two worlds. As if to demonstrate, Aurelia waved her hand. The water round Lily's legs began to shimmer and change. To her horror, Lily watched as her legs fused together, scales sprouting along her skin. In moments where her legs had been, there was now a beautiful fishtail, golden like Aurelia's own. Lily cried out in shock, thrashing in the water as she tried to adjust to her new form. Jack strained against his bonds, desperate to reach his daughter. What have you done to her? He roared at Aurelia. The Mermaid Queen smiled triumphantly. I've merely awakened her true nature. You see, my dear Jack, when I took you as my king, I blessed our union with magic. Any child born of our union would be a creature of both land and sea. Lily has always had this power within her. I've simply brought it to the surface. Lily stared at her new tail, a mix of terror and wonder flooding through her. Part of her was repulsed by the change, desperate to have her legs back. But another part, a part she'd always kept hidden, felt an exhilarating sense of rightness. This can't be real, she muttered. Aurelia swam closer, her expression softening. But it is, my dear. This is who you truly are. A princess of the sea, with the power to bridge two worlds. Stay with us, learn to use your gifts. Together we could do incredible things. For a moment, Lily wavered. The offer was tempting. She'd always felt different, set apart from the other villagers. Here was an explanation, a place where she might truly belong. But then she looked at her father, saw the years of captivity etched on his face, the desperation in his eyes. She thought of her mother, waiting anxiously back in the village, of Thomas, who had risked everything to accompany her on this journey. No, Lily said, her voice growing stronger with each word. This might be part of who I am, but it's not all of me. I won't abandon my life, my loved ones, for your underwater kingdom. Aurelia's expression darkened. You don't have a choice, my dear. You're here now, and here you'll stay. In time, you'll come to accept it, to love it even, as your father has. I've never loved it here, Jack spat. Every moment has been a torture, thinking of Mary, of the child I never got to know. Lily's heart swelled at her father's words. She turned to Aurelia, her new tail swishing powerfully through the water. You're wrong. We do have a choice, and we choose to leave. With a determination she didn't know she possessed, Lily focused on the pearl at her throat. She didn't know how, but she knew it was the key to her power. The pearl began to glow, brighter and brighter, until its light filled the entire cavern. Aurelia shrieked, shielding her eyes. The watery chains binding Jack dissolved, and he swam quickly to Lily's side. The nurse. How are you doing this? He asked in awe. Lily shook her head, concentrating on maintaining the light. I don't know, but we have to leave, now. As Aurelia lunged for them, Lily grabbed her father's hand. She thought of the surface, of her mother's face, of the life she'd left behind. The pearl pulsed once, twice, and then they were shooting upward, faster than should have been possible, the water rushing past them in a blur. They burst through the surface with a tremendous splash, gasping and coughing. Thomas, who had been pacing anxiously at the water's edge, let out a cry of shock and relief. Lily, you're alive! As they swam to shore, Lily's tail shimmered and transformed back into legs. She collapsed on the riverbank, exhausted but triumphant. Jack, looking older and wearier than in Lily's dreams but undeniably alive, pulled himself up beside her. We did it, Lily breathed. We're free. But even as the words left her mouth, the water behind them began to churn. Aurelia's voice, filled with rage and power, echoed across the river. This isn't over. You belong to me, both of you, and I will not rest until you return to where you truly belong. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the river, Lily, Jack, and Thomas hurried back towards the village. They knew that their ordeal was far from over. Aurelia's threat hung in the air, a promise of battles yet to come. But for now, they were together. They were free. And as they approached the outskirts of Riverdale, where Mary waited with hope she'd never quite abandoned, they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as a family. The story of the Golden Mermaid and the fisherman's daughter was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. The return of Jack, long thought lost to the river's depths, sent shockwaves through the village of Riverdale. Mary's joyful sobs echoed through the streets as she clutched her husband close, scarcely believing he was real. Lily stood nearby, her heart full as she watched her parents reunite after so many years apart. But the happiness of their reunion was short-lived. As night fell and the village gathered to hear their tale, a sense of foreboding settled over Riverdale like a heavy fog. Old man Tom, his face more lined than ever, leaned heavily on his cane as he addressed the crowd. The Mermaid Queen will not let this insult stand, he said, his voice quavering but firm. We must prepare for her wrath. A murmur of fear rippled through the gathered villagers. Jack stepped forward, his years underwater evident in his pale skin and haunted eyes. Tom's right, he said. Aurelia's powerful, and she's not used to being denied what she wants. She'll come for us, and soon. Mary gripped Jack's hand tightly. Then we'll face her together, she declared, her voice strong despite the fear in her eyes. All of us. Lily, standing between her parents, felt a swell of love and pride. But she also felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. She knew somehow that she would play a crucial role in whatever was to come. As the village buzzed with activity, preparing defenses and gathering weapons, Lily sought out a quiet moment by the well at the center of town. She stared into its depths, wondering if she'd ever feel truly at peace with the two halves of her nature again. Heavy thoughts. Lily turned to see Thomas approaching, a gentle smile on his face. She managed a small smile in return. Just wondering how I went from being a simple village girl to this, she gestured vaguely at herself, in the span of a day. Thomas leaned against the well beside her. You were never simple, Lily. Anyone could see that. You've always been more. Lily looked at him sharply, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. You never said anything." He shrugged, a faint blush coloring his cheeks. "I didn't want to make you feel more different than you already did, but I always knew there was something special about you." Before Lily could respond, a shout went up from the edge of the village. "The river! Look at the river!" Lily and Thomas exchanged a quick glance before rushing towards the commotion. What they saw made their blood run cold. The river, usually so placid, was churning violently. Great waves crashed against the banks, and at the center of the maelstrom, a figure was rising from the depths. Aurelia, her golden scales gleaming in the moonlight, emerged from the water. But she wasn't alone. Behind her, an army of merpeople surfaced, their faces set in grim determination. Some carried wicked-looking spears of coral and bone, while others wielded nets woven from seaweed that seemed to move with a life of their own. Aurelia's voice, magically amplified, echoed across the village. "People of Riverdale, you harbor two who belong to me. Return Jack and Lily, and the rest of you may live. Refuse, and we will raze this village to the ground." Jack pushed his way to the front of the crowd, Lily and Mary close behind. "We don't belong to you, Aurelia," he shouted. "We never did." The Mermaid Queen's beautiful face contorted with rage. "Foolish man, you were my king for 17 years. And Lily," her gaze shifted to the girl, softening slightly. "You are my daughter, in all but name. Your place is with us, in the depths." Lily stepped forward, her heart pounding, but her voice steady. "You're wrong. My place is here, with my family, with my people. I may have the blood of the sea in my veins, but my heart belongs to the land." For a moment, something like pain flashed across Aurelia's face. Then it was gone, replaced by cold determination. "So be it," she snarled. "If you will not come willingly, we will take you by force." With a gesture from Aurelia, the Mer army surged forward. The villagers, armed with hastily gathered farm tools and ancient weapons pulled from attics, met them at the water's edge. The battle was chaos. Mer warriors leapt from the water with inhuman grace, their weapons flashing in the moonlight. Villagers fought back with desperate courage, their feet slipping in the mud of the riverbank. Lily found herself in the thick of the fighting, her newfound abilities awakening almost instinctively. She moved with a fluid grace, dodging attacks and helping her fellow villagers. The pearl at her throat pulsed with power, and she found she could manipulate the water around her, pushing back the Mer warriors with waves of her own making. Thomas fought at her side, his face set in grim determination as he swung a heavy woodcutter's axe. Jack and Mary, reunited after so long, fought back to back, protecting each other with the ferocity of those who had already lost too much time together. As the battle raged, Lily caught glimpses of Aurelia. The Mermaid Queen hung back from the main fighting, her eyes fixed on Lily with an unsettling intensity. Suddenly, Lily understood. This wasn't just about reclaiming Jack. Aurelia wanted her, the child of two worlds, the key to bridging the gap between land and sea. With this realization came a plan. It was risky, perhaps even foolish, but Lily knew it was their best chance. "Thomas," she called over the din of battle. "Cover me." Her friend nodded, immediately moving to guard her back as Lily began to make her way through the chaos towards Aurelia. As she moved, she focused on the pearl at her throat, drawing on its power. The water around her feet began to churn and rise, lifting her up on a column of river water. Gasps and shouts rose from both sides of the battle as Lily ascended, her hair whipping around her face, her eyes glowing with an inner light. She locked gazes with Aurelia, who watched her approach with a mixture of awe and wariness. "Enough!" Lily's voice, amplified by the power flowing through her, rang out across the battlefield. "This ends now, Aurelia." The fighting slowed, then stopped, all eyes turning to the confrontation unfolding above them. Aurelia's lips curved into a smile that was equal parts proud and cruel. "Look at you," she purred, "embracing your power at last. You see, this is who you truly are, my dear. A queen in the making." Lily shook her head, the column of water carrying her closer to Aurelia. "You're wrong. This power doesn't define me. It's a part of me. Yes, but only a part. I am who I choose to be, not what my abilities dictate." "Pretty words," Aurelia scoffed. "But you can't deny the call of the sea forever. It's in your blood." "You're right," Lily agreed, surprising Aurelia. "It is in my blood, just as the land is in my blood. I am of both worlds, Aurelia, and that means I have the power to bridge them, not to choose between them." She extended a hand towards the mermaid queen. "It doesn't have to be this way. We could find a way for our people to coexist, to learn from each other. Isn't that better than endless conflict?" For a moment, Aurelia seemed to waver. Lily saw a flicker of longing in her golden eyes, a glimpse of the loneliness that had driven her to such extremes. But then her expression hardened once more. "Coexist? With these land dwellers who fear and shun us?" "Never!" Aurelia snarled. She raised her arms, summoning a massive wave that towered over the village. "If you won't join us willingly, then I'll wash away everything you love. Perhaps then you'll see reason." As the wave began to crest, threatening to demolish Riverdale and everyone in it, Lily acted on instinct. She thrust both hands forward, her entire body humming with power. The pearl at her throat blazed like a miniature sun. The wave stopped. Hanging suspended in the air, defying gravity and nature itself, the wall of water trembled between Aurelia's will and Lily's. The mermaid queen's eyes widened in shock and growing fear. "Impossible," she breathed. Lily felt the strain of holding back the wave, sweat beading on her brow. But she also felt something else, a connection, not just to the water, but to the land beneath her feet, to the air around her, to every person watching with bated breath. She was the bridge between worlds, and in this moment, she finally understood what that truly meant. "No more violence," Lily declared, her voice ringing with authority beyond her years. "No more fear, no more separation. It's time for a new way." With a gesture that seemed to bend reality itself, Lily began to reshape the wave. The water flowed and twisted, forming into a shimmering arch that spanned the river. As the stunned onlookers watched, the arch solidified, becoming a bridge of crystal clear water that somehow remained solid underfoot. Aurelia stared at the bridge, her composure cracking. "What have you done?" Lily lowered herself to stand at one end of the bridge, facing Aurelia. "I've created a way for our worlds to meet. This bridge will stand as long as there is good faith between land and sea. It's an invitation, Aurelia. A chance for understanding, for growth, for both our peoples." The mermaid queen seemed to deflate, the fight leaving her in a rush. She looked at Lily with new eyes, seeing not just the power she wielded, but the wisdom and compassion behind it. "Perhaps," Aurelia said slowly, "I have been too hasty, too set in my ways." She glanced at Jack, who stood protectively in front of Mary. "I see now that love cannot be forced, nor can loyalty. It must be earned." Lily nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. "And trust must be built, step by step. Will you take that first step with me, Aurelia?" After a long moment, the Mermaid Queen inclined her head. "I will try," she said softly. As Aurelia turned to address her people, calling for an end to hostilities, Lily felt the adrenaline of battle fading. She swayed on her feet, suddenly exhausted. Thomas was there in an instant, supporting her. "That," he said with a grin, "was the most amazing thing I've ever seen." Lily managed a weak laugh. "Let's hope it's also the last amazing thing for a while. I could use a nice boring few days after this." As the villagers of Riverdale and the Mer people began to cautiously interact, marveling at the bridge and at each other, Lily felt a profound sense of rightness. This was what she had been born for, not to choose between two worlds, but to unite them. Jack and Mary approached, pride shining in their eyes. "You did it, sweetheart," Jack said, pulling Lily into a tight embrace. "You saved us all." Mary stroked Lily's hair, tears glistening in her eyes. "I always knew you were special, but this is beyond anything I could have imagined." Lily leaned into their embrace, savoring the feeling of finally being whole. She had her family, her home, and now a purpose that spanned two worlds. As the dawn broke over Riverdale, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, Lily stood at the center of the shimmering bridge. On one side, the village she had always called home. On the other, the mysterious underwater realm that was part of her heritage. And she, Lily, daughter of land and sea, stood between them, a living bridge, a promise of harmony between two worlds that had long been separated by fear and misunderstanding. Aurelia swam up to the bridge, her expression thoughtful. "You've given us a great gift, Lily," she said softly. "A chance to learn, to grow, to become more than what we were. I thank you for that." Lily smiled, reaching out to touch Aurelia's hand. "We have a long road ahead of us," she said. "There will be challenges, misunderstandings, but if we face them together, with open hearts and minds, I believe we can create something beautiful." As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting its warm light over land and sea alike, a new chapter began for Riverdale and for the realm beneath the waves. And at the center of it all stood Lily, the girl of two worlds, ready to guide both her peoples into a future bright with possibility. In the days and weeks that followed, Lily worked tirelessly to foster understanding between the villagers and the Mer people. She organized cultural exchanges, mediated disputes, and encouraged friendships across the divide. Slowly but surely, fear gave way to curiosity, and curiosity to genuine connection. Jack, freed from his long captivity, threw himself into the work of rebuilding trust. His unique perspective, as someone who had lived in both worlds, made him an invaluable bridge between the two communities. Mary, ever practical, began organizing language lessons, believing that true understanding could only come through communication. Thomas, loyal as ever, became Lily's right hand in her efforts. His easy charm and quick wit helped smooth over many a tense moment between land dwellers and sea folk. And if his gaze lingered on Lily more often than not, well, that was a story for another time. Aurelia, true to her word, worked to change the attitudes of her people. It wasn't easy. Centuries of isolation and fear were not overcome in a day. But as she watched the wonder on young mere children's faces as they interacted with humans for the first time, she knew they were on the right path. One evening, as the sun set over the river, casting the bridge in a golden glow, Lily stood at its center. She closed her eyes, feeling the pulse of the water beneath her feet, the whisper of the wind in her hair. She felt the pearl at her throat, warm and comforting, a reminder of the power that flowed through her veins. In that moment, she saw glimpses of the future, mer people and humans working side by side to clean the river and protect its ecosystem. Cultural festivals, where music and dance from both worlds blended into something entirely new. Children of land and sea playing together, their laughter a harmony that transcended the boundaries of their birth. She saw challenges too, prejudices that would take generations to fully overcome, misunderstandings that would test the fragile peace. But she also saw the strength of the connections being forged, the determination of those on both sides who believed in the possibility of harmony. Lily opened her eyes, a smile playing on her lips. The path ahead was long and not always easy, but it was a path worth walking. And she, Lily of land and sea, would walk it with pride, hope, and the unshakable belief that love, for family, for community, for the world in all its diverse beauty, could overcome any obstacle. As night fell and the first stars began to twinkle in the sky, Lily made her way back to the village. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to build the bridge between worlds. But for now, she was content to be simply Lily, daughter of Jack and Mary, friend of Thomas, child of Riverdale. She paused at the threshold of her home, looking back at the shimmering bridge that spanned the river. It stood as a testament to what was possible when fear gave way to understanding, when divisions were bridged by courage and compassion. Lily smiled to herself. The story of the golden mermaid and the fisherman's daughter had taken an unexpected turn, becoming something far grander and more beautiful than anyone could have imagined. And she, Lily, was ready to write the next chapter, one day at a time. With a contented sigh, she stepped inside, closing the door on the magical evening. But the magic, she knew, was just beginning, for in bridging two worlds, Lily had opened the door to endless possibilities, to a future limited only by the imagination and goodwill of those brave enough to reach across the divide. And so, as Riverdale settled into its new reality, as mer people and humans learned to live side by side, the legend of the Golden Mermaid evolved. No longer a tale of fear and loss, it became a story of hope, of the power of understanding, and of the remarkable things that can happen when we open our hearts to those who seem different from ourselves. In the years to come, many would travel from far and wide to see the crystal bridge and the harmonious community that had sprung up around it. They would listen in wonder to the tale of Lily, the girl of two worlds, and the mermaid queen who learned to let go of bitterness and embrace a new way of living. But for Lily herself, the greatest magic was in the everyday moments, in watching friendships form across the boundary of land and sea, in seeing children grow up without the burden of fear and prejudice, in the small kindnesses exchanged between former enemies. As she stood on the bridge and one last time before heading to bed, Lily whispered a quiet thank you to the river, to the pearl at her throat, to whatever twist of fate had given her the power to make a difference. Then she turned towards home, towards the future, ready for whatever adventures tomorrow might bring. And so our tale ends, not with the words happily ever after, for that would imply an ending. Instead, we leave Lily and the people of Riverdale, both those who walk on land and those who swim in the depths, at the beginning of a grand new adventure. An adventure of unity, of growth, of building a world where the lines between us and them blur and fade, replaced by the simple, powerful truth that we are all, in the end, part of the same great story.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching. Kindly click the subscribe button, like, comment, and share this video. Watch out for more intriguing and eye-catching videos from your favorite YouTube channel.